This is our Unconstitutional Awakening program.
Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have ignition.
Brought to you by KellKell Consulting Redesign.
Ahoy there, mateys! It's time to set sail on another episode of Unconstitutional Awakening, the podcast. So, this evening, we've got a very special guest coming to join us. He's a paranormal investigator, as well as a psychonaut and traveler. The fella is known as Chaz of the Dead. He's also an author, and he's always found research and investigation and, to a bunch of the paranormal different things. And like he's been kind of on the cutting edge of research with controversial psychedelic experiments, and he really knows what it means to investigate the paranormal. And I figured this would be a fantabulous way to close out Spooky Month, because we've been having a lot of fun around here, as you guys can see clearly by tonight's costume, which is, if you didn't know, Mr. Freeze from Batman the Animated Series. I've had a lot of fun showing off my costumes to you guys, and I appreciate all the love that I've been getting for them and such. And, I appreciate all of you out there listening and watching and, interacting with us and stuff throughout social media and even our website and stuff like that. You guys are really awesome, and I appreciate each and every one of you out there, and I know the rest of the team does as well. And as well as with that, you guys, as usual, I've always got to make sure that we get this stuff out of the way. But you guys want to, if you guys don't mind, you guys can always hop back to unconstitutionalawakening.com. where you can find everything we got going on over there. We've got the podcast and more section, which has stuff coming from all of your favorite hosts and co-hosts of the show, as well as finding us in other places and keeping up with me over there on the Red Pill Project. There's stuff coming out from Louise, from KellKell, Neptune, Bandit, and even Caitlin. They've all got things going on. We're trying to wake the world up. We've all got different plans with this stuff, of course. And there's even host sections. You guys can get back to everyone's social media. Make sure you give that some love, and go give everybody a follow and stuff like that. Of course, on the main page over here, you guys can find everywhere where you can watch us. You can find links to how to listen to us. You can even listen to us right there on the page, as well as finding links to our fantastic merch store and all of our great sponsors, man. These friends in Liberty that we have, like Kirk Elliott, Peachy Key Creations, Ammo Can Survival, and my buddy over there, Brett Pike at Classical Learner and Homeschools Today. Man, all these guys are trying to make a difference and change the world for a better place, just like we're out here trying to do. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, remember, this isn't something that's scripted and stuff. This is a bunch of friends inviting on some really cool people to talk about really cool, interesting things. And this month has just been really extra because we're, like I said, in the Spooky Month. So I hope you guys have been enjoying this. I hope you guys really enjoy this episode. And we're going to keep trucking on forward. Before you know it, we'll be up there in the even higher hundreds. So we appreciate it again, all the love and support we get from you guys. And I thank everyone for tuning in out there, man. So let's just get into it, though. So, how is everyone doing this evening? Bandit, I see that you've joined me for this episode tonight. How you, buddy?
Absolutely. Good, man. Good.
Fantastic, fantastic. KellKell, I'm glad to see you up here with us tonight, man. You excited to be with us this evening?
I am excited, and greetings to everybody.
Awesome, awesome. Luis, good to see you, buddy.
Hi.
Fantastic. How you doing tonight, bud?
I don't want to produce violence to the world yet.
Well, good. No, that's a good day. That's a good day. And of course, you guys, as I said tonight, we're having my friend here, Chaz. He's from Chaz of the Dead Man. Dude's into all kinds of awesome stuff. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Oh, another day in paradise, just chugging along.
Nice. So I want to let the folks out there at home listening, watching, checking everything out, know a little bit about yourself. So would you mind giving us a little bit of a rundown about, what got you into this whole wild world of things that you're into, man?
Well, I guess, so for the listeners, I'm a paranormal investigator / writer / I don't know, journalist. Kind of gets murky there with the labels.
Well, I actually see one person say that you were, I think this was even on your website, you're a little controversial. You consider yourself like a psychedelic paranormal investigator.
Oh yeah, I definitely like to get into some of the more fringe elements of the research, and that tends to lead you to the consciousness, let's call it conundrum.
Sure.
But my initial experience, I think like a lot of people in the paranormal subgenre, I had a childhood experience, and that kind of sparked me off on this strange journey, as it were. One night I was maybe 9-10 years old, just moved into this bunk bed. My older brother, they built this bunk bed. My older brother moved to the top. I moved in on the bottom. And one night I fell out of bed and saw this pair of red eyes staring back at me. And it was kind of like almost like a Halloween graphic, like burning at the edges, like your classic pair of red eyes. And being a kid, I hopped back in bed, put the blanket over my head, and I was safe. So I waited till the morning. And in the morning I got up, and I'm young, but I'm rational. So I'm like, okay, there must be some kind of electric toy, like a power button or like a plug giving off a light. And so I start digging from stuff underneath my bed. And my older brother is coming down the ladder, and he sees what I'm doing, and without me prompting or saying anything, he's got this stunned look on his face, and he asks, "Did you see the eyes too?" Because he had that same exact experience a few weeks prior when he was sleeping on that bed. And for me, that was like a whoa, aha moment. Like, oh shit, some stuff does go bump in the night. There's something going on here. Even now, it's not like I grew up in a haunted house. I wouldn't call that was really just a one-off. And I tend to lean towards the idea it was some kind of shared dream, collective unconscious phenomenon going on. But even that's, beyond our scope, beyond our understanding. And so that was enough to be, well, something's going on, whether it is ghosts or entities or whatever, or it is some kind of collective, conscious experience. Reality is not all that it seems to be. And so that was, the initial spark. And then from going in and researching these things for since that moment, really, it's been a pretty bizarre journey, and it certainly has led me, as you were saying, towards that consciousness kind of idea.
Well, no, and that's that has always been a common ground, I guess, in this the world of waking up, is people kind of come around to the idea of consciousness, and that not only just consciousness, but like parallel universes and stuff like that our human eye can't see, and this is even in big scientific studies and stuff, that there's different spectrums of light that we can't physically see ourselves. And And I think the psychedelics come into effect in a lot of that area too, getting into that because you really can see into that other world. We openly discussed things on here in the past before, mushrooms and DMT and LSD and stuff like that. I believe they are tickets to an unknown, but if you're using something, I guess, and you're not prepared for it, it can go awry, of
Yeah.
course.
Prepare meaning that you're not pure in heart,
Sure.
and that you're not in good health too. Because if you're not eating right, if you have malice in your heart, and then you're using these things for a spiritual awakening, you could harm yourself. And I like, guys, everybody on the panel. I'll be done in a minute, Jay. I just wanted to touch this topic. How everybody make it seem like the conscious community or us claiming to be conscious is something that you just put on like a shirt. When no, consciousness is something that you realize you have and you cultivate it. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. Us free thinkers, we just ahead of the curve when we already cultivating, when they still don't know that they are conscious, even though they're sheeple, they're not aware of what's going on in this world, but they are conscious. Thanks, Jay.
Of course, of course. No, that's it. Always looking forward to what you got to say, Kel. So, you said you've been investigating different, paranormal things. I mean, is this in the realm of just ghosts, or do you like, I guess, a little bit of everything?
Yeah, I guess I do. I always forget that I have to make that preference because it's still in the paranormal community
Sure.
at large. There's still the old school guys who paranormal means like ghost hunters, ghost adventures, that kind of stuff. But the kind of new age, the Keelian, Fortean variety of investment, we say paranormal, we definitely, Loch Ness monster, cryptids, the whole swath, time slips, the variety of strange phenomenon that people report all over the globe. It's part of this human experience. People experience these strange things. There is reality and time is a lot more fickle than we assume. And for centuries, it's been like, oh, well, something weird happened. It must be a ghost from the 1800s. It's a dead Civil War soldier. That's why that glass is moving on its own. Or it's, oh, it must be aliens. You saw a light in the sky. It's got to be aliens from a different planet. There's always been this massive leap to some kind of really bizarre explanation.
Sure.
And it makes great stories. And the story is kind of a crucial part of the experience. But on the whole, there's something happening beyond that. Something physical is occurring. And, we've had these frameworks for centuries. The alien one's a little newer. But the other ones have been there for centuries. Bigfoot's an ape. Ghosts are dead people. And people have been investigating from these angles, and it hasn't produced anything really notable. There's some odd things here and there, but when you come to investigators like John Keel, like Jacques Vallée, who start investigating this consciousness angle, that's when you start seeing the high strangeness. You start seeing these connections between the phenomenon. And that was, for me, a hands-on, real-world experience. And so for me to break out of the, kind of, oh, aliens are aliens, ghosts are ghosts, yada, yada, I was doing Ouija board mushroom experiments. I was doing these mushroom teas, various blends. I was mixing in some red poppy and doing kinds of different uppers and sedatives and things like that, trying to hit a specific level.
Did you ever get a chance to do the mosquito? What's the name of the mosquito?
Mescaline?
Yeah, what's the name of that mushroom with the white specks on it, red mosquito?
Oh, Amida
that's the,
muscaria. Amida
yeah.
muscaria.
Thank you so much, Lou.
Not an easy name. It took me a while to
you?
memorize it.
Did you
no,
get a chance? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
These ones I was using golden teachers, more of your cow poo variety.
Right.
But
I know
notably
some of those.
strong. And so I was kind of tweaking it with the strength with the T's. But I was doing Ouija board seances. I was trying to reach out, contact some entities. And so I would take these substances, get really, really up there, I'm seeing the fabric of reality, as it were, and do these seances, and nothing would happen. I mean, absolutely nothing. I was waiting for the planchette to move. I was waiting to get messages, see visions. Nothing would happen. But in the times outside of the seances, when I wasn't tripping, I started to see UFOs. And it started to be like little lights and things like that. And I wasn't quite sure what they were. But the moment I realized, no, something's going on here, I was hanging out with a buddy. We were hanging out in the same area I had did these seances. We were smoking a joint. And I was telling him about this. Ouija board, seances, mushrooms, UFOs, and he was like, "Okay, yeah, sure, dude. You clearly lost the plot. You're too far gone, man." And when he said that, I was like, "You know what? When I say it out loud, you're right. That does sound a little crazy." And almost ironically, we start to hear this metallic hum, and right above the tree line, this triangle-shaped craft just flies right above us. And it was low. I could have hit it with a rock. It was right above the tree line. Light in each corner. It's this classic shape that oftentimes is actually attributed to human US tech. There's this, it's a T3B or something.
Is it triangular? Is it the triangular ones?
Yeah, the triangle one, light in each corner. It was that exact archetype.
You are
I
absolutely
always
right.
mix it up with the Star Wars one, but it's got some kind of name. There's a B in there somewhere.
Yeah. They're not as fast as the other beings, aircrafts. You could tell it's got to be human because it moves. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a lot of videos of those. Arizona seems to be a hotbed of lights. I don't want to say, space. They could be spacecraft. They could be beings. They could be any number of things. But Arizona is a hotbed of the triangular lights. There are so many videos from Arizona.
You think it's possible though that particular craft is experimental tech?
I would highly suggest that there could be, but of course,
this is a U.S. Navy patent.
Yes,
where I mean, yes, but at the same time, it could be our tech, but at the same time, it could be otherworldly or other dimensional tech. Because where do we get the experimental technology? Ideas
Scientists
just
with a lot of drugs.
And like we've said before, ideas don't just come from nothing.
That's right.
Oh no, I mean,
I totally get what you're saying.
To be doing drugs, like
they're
doing safely. They ingest psychedelic drugs in order to experiment. You ever heard of the LSD? One of the first LSD experiments where a lot of scientists and engineers all were in one room, put a drop in each one of their glasses, and had amazing breakthroughs that day. Had incredible breakthroughs. A bunch of scientists just all back and forth, high as a kite, just talking about stuff.
What I like to suggest during times like that is there a possibility that they were visited while they were?
I think it's two triangular. I think it's ours and others triangular. I don't think we're just exclusive to it. I've seen some other videos that before I knew that was human tech, right? That there was, and they got many different sizes, guys. Some look like pyramids, some look like just square or rectangular boxes. Make it float, it just shows the extraordinary genius of the technology that we don't know about, JB. And it goes back to saying that we can only see so much with these human eyes. So just imagine what the mind has not even grasped yet about what's going on. And just like our government, before when we got cell phones, fellas, They already had cell phones 40 years before the public got it. That's how I take the beings, the multidimensional beings are enslaving humanity too, but they're not as pure as we are, because some of them don't have a soul. They're soulless. They're trying to figure out how they can get one, and they're enslave us by keeping the technology away from humanity. Thank you for the time, guys. Let's get to it. Bandit, great point too, bro.
Well, as much as I was going in on the psychedelic angle, and again, by that experience with the Ouija boards, there does seem to be some kind of psychedelic nature to that craft. I also have a thing I passionately call bee theory. And it's a little bit of a pun, and we'll get to that in a moment, but it's actually one of my more popular things I've talked about and discussed. I get a lot of emails about this subject, probably more than any other. So bee theory was something that I stumbled upon. It must have been, it would have been 6 years ago now. I was backpacking in Morocco, and at this point, my investigating the paranormal was just like a little WordPress blog. It was, nothing really notable, but it was still my hobby. And so I was backpacking, and, people knew I wrote about UFOs and ghosts and stuff. And one dude was like, "Oh, I got someone you need to meet." And he set up this meeting at this roadside cafe, and I met this dude named George. And he was an older dude, and he was kind of, he had the, what do you call it? The truth twitch. He was a little round in the eyes. But he began to tell me some of the wildest stories I had ever heard. But the short version was that his dad was a CIA agent, and he knew people who flew UFOs. And I was like, "Oh shit, what's up with that?" And he said, "Oh, it's simple. They reverse engineered a anti-gravity chamber in the thorax of honeybees, and that's how UFOs work." And that was the first time I had ever heard anything like that. Bookmarked it in my mind. I didn't even write anything about it because it was so out there, so crazy. It just was burned in my memory. And years later, when I wrote my first book, I went down to Chile, did a bunch of these psychedelic experiments. Oh, what's that?
Congratulations on writing the first book, man.
Oh, thank you. The second one's out just a couple months ago, so it's going well.
Hey, so tell them about the information at the end of the show if you could come back and about your book so they know how to get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first book, I went down to Chile to investigate this supposed UFO group, and I did a bunch of weird experiments, and I also went to this former Nazi compound, and in the book, I write a chapter about the idea that Nazis, had UFO tech, this popular theory, the Nazi bell. And I threw in there one paragraph, little diatribe, like, I met this crazy guy and he said it was bees. And, a bell kind of looks like a bee's ass. And so.
Yeah. The tip that you're hanging.
Yeah, that's the little point, right? And so I said, maybe that's it. Literally 4 or 5 sentences. And I put the book out, and you were actually using Mysterious Universe there earlier. They covered the book, and it kind of blew up. I didn't expect anyone to read it, but people started reading it, and I got invited to do a bunch of podcasts. And one podcast, there we go. We're on to something. I'm going to get into this. I know. We're going to get into it here in a minute. So one of the podcasts that invited me on was this comedy podcast, The Sensible Sociopath. They're great guys, very funny. And the host, he had read my book, and that paragraph jumped out to me because his close friend grew up in a military family, and all the dad would say about his job was that he was a man in black. He knew he had something to do with UFOs, but he would say, "I'm a man in black," like in the movies. And when this man was on his deathbed, they pressed him for more info. And supposedly, the only thing he said was, "Look at the bees." And they thought it maybe had something to do with the way bees communicated or something like that until they read my book. And so this sent me on. Now I had 2 totally shady, unreliable sources, but that's enough. I got 2. So I started to dive into the research. And so first I went scientific, found a bunch of papers on weird flight mechanics of bees. It actually used to be this thing for a long time that bees were too heavy to fly. I think that's even a bit at the start of that Jerry Seinfeld bee movie.
This brings to mind about this Russian guy, man, about the scarabs.
Grebennikov. Oh yeah, I'm getting there. Man, Kel, I love you. You know exactly where I'm going with this shit. So on the scientific end, there is some weird shit about bees. You pulled up an article there with their quantum nature. There's a whole, their nests are built in this weird way that defy gravity. And honeybees in particular have this thing called economy mode, where when they're carrying pollen, they're actually using less energy, which is unlike any other animal, right? If we're carrying weight, we're using more energy, we're breathing faster. It's difficult. Honeybees are the opposite.
And that's the only insect being that if it stop existing, every man will too, flowers, everything.
Oh yeah, so that gets into this whole idea that these craft are based on bee parts. So I did the scientific research, some weird stuff there. Then I go to the weird research, right? We got to go to the fun sources, your above top secrets, your mysterious universes. And I actually found this website called KellKell.
They rally around a queen and protect the queen, and the Queen of England, you know what one of her symbols is? The bee. And she's the queen, and the whole country rallying around her.
The Freemasons have a bee in their symbology, but it gets into other insects here in a minute. So I went to the weird research and I discovered the writings of a Viktor Grebennikov, and this is all through a dead website, KellKell. The guy who ran this website was obsessed with like alternative energy devices. All kinds of, like the dude in Brazil who made a motorcycle that ran on water and then he died. All of those dudes who mysteriously die after discovering some shit like that. He was into all of that.
And this guy, just before you make your point, right? And you know, Benikoff in the PlayStation movie, Metal Gear Solid, right? I forget which one it is. You have to fly in one of these aircrafts of Benikoff that you could bring to the attention. Is in the fucking PlayStation game.
I didn't know that. I gotta check that shit out.
I think it's Sons of Anarchy or some shit. One of those guys. Good game, by the way, fellas. I'm sorry. Go ahead, brother. That's definitely.
So one of the dudes he was communicating with near the end of his life before this website got shut down, he died. No word on how this dude who ran this website died, but he died. Website was shut down, and this was the last thing he was working on. Viktor Grebennikov's hidden technology. Yeah. And so Grebennikov was this Russian scientist, an entomologist, real dude. He worked at a university. He wrote several papers that are still cited to this day by other entomologists.
And he was all about practicality. He didn't just theorize it. He really tried to do
And at the end of his life, he wrote this memoir where he talks about all of his discoveries in entomology. And then in one chapter, he says, oh yeah, and there's that time I built a UFO. And you saw the picture there. It was literally a platform with handlebars.
Yes, man.
And
wood. I think wood. Yeah, wood.
Supposedly, he discovered that looking at the wings.
Chaz, can you pull that up, JB? Can you pull? Cause this is like, I mean.
I know the video you're talking about, and if you notice, there is no exhaust, and there is no tanks.
There's no tanks.
So I don't know from what time period this videos are. They're actually not even videos. They're film recordings. The people that are like floating in like what looks like a little box. I don't know if you've seen those old videos.
So this is him testing out the tech. So
hey, Lou, thank you for giving that alter side of because I like that. I need to. That's shadow side. I need to check into that too. Thanks for that information. Go ahead.
What he discovered was that wing shells, like the ones there, would float for a minute, and they had all of these weird gravitational properties.
Anti-gravity. That they didn't flap their wings, they didn't fly. He said they hovered or some shit, like what made him
exactly. And so he stitched a bunch of them together, literally put insect parts, the physical parts together in those black boxes you saw at the start of that video, and then put a bunch of those black boxes on the bottom of that pallet, and supposedly this thing would fly.
Right.
Now,
based
initially,
upon the makeup of the wings of the beetles, like he got enough of them to be able to duplicate what they did, right?
Right. So it would give him enough lift, and this thing would take off. He said it could go infinitely high and infinitely fast. He wouldn't go that fast because it was again, you saw it's just a pallet with handlebars. There was no seat belt or anything. So he would only go a little bit, a certain speed at a time. But the thing that sold me on it, because initially I'm like, okay, well, this is just another weird alternate 0 point weird UFO theory. The thing that sold me on it was the side effects he described of operating this craft. And if this was a hoax, I got to give him props because he did his research, because he listed these side effects and they almost exactly correlated with the list I wrote in my first book of the correlation between psychedelic phenomenon, the psychedelic experience, and paranormal phenomenon. And he said operating this craft would cause all kinds of weird paranormal side effects, all kinds of time alterations. For one example, he would fly this out to his research fields and collect insect larvae. He would put a larva in a vial, put it in his pocket, fly back, and that larva would be fully grown over that 2-hour little flight, something that would normally take months. And if he ever dropped something off the side of the craft, it would disappear. It wouldn't hit the ground. It would vanish and then reappear or cause a bunch of strange activity in the area. He reported he dropped a vial over an apartment building, and all of these perfectly round fused holes were in people's windows. And one window had literally half of a fused vial melted into it. And this is really interesting. Those little holes is something that John Keel described during the Mothman case that he investigated in Point Pleasant. It's something that pops up in a ton of UFO and high strangeness situations, these perfectly almost melted features. And the list went on and on. The poltergeist activity and the landing sites. He really, again, if he's hoaxing it, he really did his research. Hats off to him on that, because as well as being an entomologist, accomplished entomologist, he really did his paranormal research for this hoax. Or there might be something to it. And an important factor of his research was that it wasn't just bees. It was all heavy flying insects. So like the palmetto bugs, those cockroaches that fly at you, we have here in Florida, those theoretically would have anti-gravity tech, or the platelets. It gets weird when you think about scarab beetles. Those would have the platelets, and then think about their deification in ancient Egypt. And if the tech works like Grebennikov describes, you could literally slide a few of these, make a sheet of these insect parts, slide it under one of those giant bricks that make up the pyramid, and the 4 dudes could just lift it at the corners. That's essentially the concept of this craft.
One interesting element with that is that scientists before have spoken about this, like in some ways theoretical ideas, like what would we call it? And they realized it's a better term that they discovered is gravity cancellation. So it's like nullification of the gravity fields, and like or lessening of the effects of gravity upon us. So gravity, which holds us down, which is a force that is defined by like the interpretation, like the counter force towards mass, in how we comprehend, right, like our understanding of reality. So that type potentially of technology that helped potentially build the pyramids and Coral Castle, Coral Castle is an
Yes.
amazing example
Right, in
of,
Florida.
I'm glad you brought that up.
because
Yeah,
that's an
that was-
amazing example. It's like one guy built
And in
all
Florida,
of that crazy, like Bob, like
Well, here's
Mr.
something
Freeze,
crazy.
could you show us Coral Castle?
Well, here's something crazy I discovered in my research. So the legend of Coral Castle is that according to the kids who supposedly saw him doing it in the middle of the night, he was using this cone shell-shaped device to levitate these blocks. So what's weird is in Aztec mythology, there's a legend of Quetzalcoatl who goes down to the underworld to create humans, the current incarnation of humans, us now. And to do so,
just to bring y'all attention, the new Black Panther movie that's supposed to come out has a god in there called Quetzalcoatl. The plum serpent, the winged serpent. So
yeah. So he's actually, that's one of those mistranslations we get. Plum serpent. It was actually a term for wise man. So in most depictions, he's like a dude, not a snake.
Right.
So the legend at Coral Castle, yes, is they use this shell to do it. The legend in the Aztecs
they say Quetzalcoatl is like the what Jesus Christ is.
He's the main character, right? He's like the dude who does all the. He's the main figure. And so how he tricks the god of the underworld sits on this pyramid, and he gets a shell or a trumpet, depending on the translation, and he fills it with bees. And he dances around the pyramid in this weird ritual, and that tricks the god of the underworld. And he's able to bring humans to the knowledge of humans to existence afterwards, which is pretty weird. Again, is it solid evidence? No. Is it a great story? Absolutely.
It could be allegory too. Like, it could be like something clothing something else too.
Right. And so it doesn't necessarily check out. But when you think of the idea that this technology has been used to manipulate stone, that's how they initially used it before they used it to fly, right? Well, Freemasons, right? What did they do? They were Masons. They manipulated stone.
The shell thing that you were mentioning, that was also the Coral Castle guy doing and the Aztecs doing. If you I'm always into, and Bandit made mention of this earlier too, about things come from somewhere, but a lot of times in different, I guess, nerd lore, different, different stories from nerd lore and stuff. The conch shell is a very important part of doing things, whether it be summoning something, creating something, destroying something, and so on. And there's interest to me, there's interest in a lot of this, because a lot of your crustaceans are literally bugs of the ocean. So there's a lot of similarities, I would presume, in some things. Sure, there's differences.
The cockroach jibby is a perfect example.
It's a great example. No, it really is, and
it's a hell of a motherfucking surviving insect too.
Sure, but I mean, what I'm trying to get at though is these not only the shells, but maybe the use of these shells, and you made mention of the different bugs, like even in ancient Egyptian depiction and stuff like that. Like these, maybe there's something to the shells. Maybe there's a way that you're controlling the shells all the way.
It's interesting you said that. So one of the most recent things I've got sent was this paper, and this actually goes back to what Lewis was saying with the gravity cancellation stuff. Some German researcher is currently using Grebennikov's research as a backbone to support.
You check your message, and I think that's what the one he's talking about right now. Just check your messenger right quick. I sent you a message. All right, go ahead, man.
The superfluid hypothesis. Nope, that's just a picture of a bee. I'll have to find that in a minute. But this researcher in Germany is using it, the Grebennikov researcher, to suggest, which is something that a bunch of quantum physicists have been suggesting, that there is a quantum fluid that pervades reality. It's on a quantum level, so we can't observe it. We don't feel it, but it's there, and that's how these insects operate. And it goes into Grebennikov's.
Every form, every body, every mass has an aura, like around the moon.
Well, it totally lines up with the idea of Eastern medicine, even to like our basic mythology or popular culture, the force. There's literally that same concept, that there is this super fluid. And CSE, this cavity structure effect, which was something Grebennikov discovered around insect nests. And again, this is an accepted part of entomology, that these insect nests have this special EMF reading, the CSE effect. Well, it can travel through solid objects, and it can like have medical effects, and it travels through tissue. And so this guy's saying, well, that proves it affects a quantum superfluid. It doesn't affect any other known aspect. It's not electrical, because electricity reacts to a surface. It's not X-rays, because even those react. Radiation, those even have a reaction. It's something else. It has this direct, weird stimulus that can travel through solid planes. And so the whole superfluid thing comes from helium-3, which is, there's some wild videos out there. So helium's the only substance,
anti-gravity
chemical, on the periodic table,
only
whatever you might call it, that we can see go quantum or go superfluid. I think it's 2 or 3 degrees above absolute zero helium, which at that point is a liquid. You will watch it just fall through the bottom of the container, because it's vibrating at the same, the atoms are vibrating the same as the solids. So it literally climbs the walls. It does all this crazy gravitational weird stuff. And it sounds like science fiction. It sounds like conspiracy, but there's been 3 Nobel Peace Prizes based on this concept, just helium-3.
That'd be the last show when we were talking about, when we touched on gravity. I said the helium balloon. I use that as an example why gravity.
It's wild. I'm way not smart enough to actually explain how it goes, but there's some people out there. There's some informational videos and stuff of people who are smart enough and do understand it. And you can watch the fluid just like disperse. It climbs the walls of the thing, and it phases through the bottom, and it's bizarre. And so the concept is that there's one of those around us always, and we just can't see it. And that
I forget which one doctor. I think it's animal magnetism he was speaking about.
That operated on a similar concept. And so, here we go. This is a super fluid. There you go. God, I love this show. You're so fast on the videos. This is awesome. And so the concept here is that the UFOs are actually operating more like submarines, and they're navigating this quantum fluid. And that's why they can navigate through water, through air, through space, seemingly
with less friction than you would.
With no issue. They're not operating that medium at all.
Chaz, I'm all right. Let me blow your mind a little bit. I make reference to this. Okay, this ties back into some stuff that I make reference to. Okay, I joke around all the time because I don't agree with flat earthers. I don't agree with globe earthers. I don't even agree with hollow earthers. I don't agree with any of them that are like, I guess, common.
Hollow earth forever.
No. I have found truths in all of them. Even if they're minuscule, I've found truths in all of them. And because I've found truths in all of them, I'll try to look further. And that has led me to this thing where we are in where we are in a giant snow globe turtle going through the vast ocean of space.
Actually, it's a landmass that's shaped like a turtle, but that's where they get the concept from. But it's like
listen, this is my thing that I've been doing, and that we've been lost in this snow globe spaceship turtle thing in this vast ocean of space so long that we forgot we're on a ship. And like that's why we're still lost and traveling. And one day this ship is going to arrive to the destination it was supposed to arrive, and the doors are going to open, and we're going to be like, what the hell?
You imagine the simulation's broken right now, the computer's frying, like and the concept of NPC is there's a portion of the population that legitimately is actual software, and then a portion of the population is human. I mean, I'm not saying like nobody's human, everybody is human. We're all real. But like again, it's a thought experiment.
Yes.
What was the movie that Lauren Fishburne played in?
I mean, based on some of my human interactions throughout the day, based on some of my interactions with people throughout the day, man, I have no doubt. I have no doubt that there are some NPCs running around that failed to update.
Well,
you know what I mean?
You've seen so you ever played The Sims? Anybody played The Sims?
Oh yes. But see, the thing is, it's so wild because like they don't realize that they're NPCs though.
Oh, dude, that's great. That movie, I watched it. I was actually surprised how good.
I've never seen that.
Free Guy is good.
I haven't seen it.
Ryan Reynolds plays an NPC that actually wakes up inside the game.
Becomes sentient. An NPC that becomes sentient in a GTA like game.
In a GTA like game.
It's wild to think about.
So GTA 7 maybe, or GTA 6.
But your references to this, because there are people that had for years that were just the NPCs of the game that did no matter what it was supposed to do, because that was their life. Even if they were getting robbed at gunpoint. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you ever played Civilization?
Oh,
I love Civ.
Since the very beginning.
One sec, let me pull up my Steam real quick. Let me see my hour count real fast. Oh man, that's a bummer. 1,399.5 hours. Almost at that 1,400. Please.
Which one?
Civ 5.
5? Damn,
I don't like 6, man.
20 something.
Combat.
I don't like it. Civilization Revolution was the best combat system they've ever built.
Well,
I
still like the other systems. I like the good mix. Civ 6, I don't like.
I haven't played Civ 6.
The whole thing, it's not worth it.
But look at Troy. I don't know if you ever heard of Empire Earth. I mean, there's Empire Earth, which was an alternative. There was Empire Total War. If nobody's ever seen Empire Total War or Troy, which came out recently, those simulators are insane because you are controlling legit like 300, 500 troops, and you're like watching and visualizing it, and you can see the battles happening and so on.
Oh, I've got one of those for Rome. It's like a Rome one.
Rome Total War.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
And then there is games that simulate. There's actually like a very complex battle simulators that you can find. You need a very powerful computer to play on large scales. But I've seen some videos of like people playing like Keanu Reeves, the guy from what's it called? The guy who he's like, the contract kill. Yeah, John Wicks. 2 John Wicks versus 10,000 zombies. Like,
man, I've seen the ones where they've done like the people with the super bows. There's like 50 of them, or like 10 Spartans versus 10,000 regular zombies. That's fucking wild, man.
And that's the thing is, what if that's exactly what's happening? That we're inside of a ship. The Orville did a great episode on that, where they discover this gigantic fucking ship, and they dock into it, and they're like, "This looks like the outs. What the fuck? Like it looks like the outside. Like it looks like they're on a planet."
I like to think that. What if this universe really is the marble from Men in Black? Men in Black. What if we are just in a marble bag with other universes? And what the whole thing that I watched was like how.
Let me show you guys something. Can I share screen? Let me show you something.
How absolutely terrifyingly huge that creature would have to be to use a universe as a marble.
Now listen, let me share something with you guys.
That gets into the Vedic scripts, because that's what they believe is that we're just our galaxy is just a particle of Yama, And when he breathes in, that's the death. And then he breathes out, and that's the restart.
On simulators, guys, I was a lead technician in Atlanta, man. I ran like a 10-man crew, right? And this is in Delta Airlines, right? In College Park, right? We did the Cat 3, Cat 5 cables in the office building, that's phone line and computer line. Long story short, they had this big park connected to this one area we were working in, and they got airplane pilot simulators, right? And we go on, you go walk in because I'm working right in there. And this one guy said, "You wanted to go for a ride?" I said, "Yeah." So I wanted to say this just to share it, because inside of that goddamn simulator, guys, it's just the nose of it. And you go in, it got hydraulics, you know, and make you feel like you're actually moving. And it felt just like you're in a fucking plane. So I can see how this could be a simulation where it feels like we're moving this body and in a smaller. I think it's just bizarre. And JB, another thing, it was a movie that Lawrence Fishburne played in. I forget the guy that had the metal legs. And back to the ship part you said, JB, because you just sparked the concept. I never went down that rabbit hole right there.
Yeah, you've been missing, buddy. So
yes.
Some of the good stuff.
But when he go through the glass, JB, and he looked out, he was on a fucking ship floating in space somewhere.
Luis, can you tell Chaz what you got going on here? What we do?
So I was showing before, related to the demons he was talking about, like their divisions he had before, and this is gravity cancellation technology. What came up is really cool and interesting. Like, what the heck is this? Like, what the heck is this? Like, I'm super perplexed at what am I looking at? What is this?
Yeah,
like,
it does
what is
get to
this?
that point. And that's one of the reasons, like,
are this the tethers of reality? And this is the Earth, and these are like the tethers of reality that actually hold the Earth as like the giant, like liquid of gravity. Like, we can't measure gravity, and we measure gravity because of its effect. But like, we just started like with gravitational waves, like that study that they're doing in the Antarctic. But gravity, by what they think, is that we are experiencing a fraction of its power, and gravity should be stronger, but it's not. So they think that gravity spills over to multiple dimensions.
And I'm trying to stay with the concept because I really don't believe in gravity now. But I'm trying to stay with you, Louis, not to be disagreeable, but ether. I just can't. I haven't studied. I know enough not to dispute gravity, but I ain't got no deep research on it. So
I appreciate that, because that's something I was gonna say. Is that's why I'm almost convinced of the B theory stuff, because it's getting to that point where it's so complex I don't understand, and that's other people, smarter people, are talking about it, and that's interesting. But have you guys ever?
This is a great. I'm sorry, Chad. Let me let Louis finish this, because I really want to see what. It's a great point, Chaz. I ain't gonna lie. So please forgive me, brother. I ain't mean it to be so.
Oh, no, don't worry.
I really want Louis to really kind of. I want to save this concept right quick.
I mean, we at the end of the day don't understand completely anything, right? We are just building blocks that are creating the foundations of our collective comprehension of what is all. Because
no, Louis, I'm really concerned, like,
measure things
here, because you're showing me something. You know how they say the weight of the Earth is like causing a concave in time or whatever space. So I'm just really that's not the same as what your point is, but it's kind of similar.
Yeah, when they talk about space-time, and they talk about the fabric of reality, and how they show the visualization of the representation of how the Earth makes a dent in the space-time framework, and that's the gravity is the counterforce to that fabric. And
but the picture we just seen, which is a good point, I'm just trying to like.
The one that was just coming up is just fascinating. That's a computer, basically. You ever heard of the idea of, if you have enough monkeys with typewriters, they'll write Moby Dick?
I heard.
If you have infinite time, you will have a bunch of monkeys just like typing on a typewriter. They'll eventually write the Moby Dick, the Bible, everything.
You believe it?
These systems, these machine learning systems, are essentially accelerated version of monkeys typing on a typewriter.
Great, man. Now that I think about that, I'm like, anytime I write something down, I'm like, this is so insignificant. A monkey could do it. So, like, I have no motivation to like write anything now. Thanks, Luis.
Well, hold on. I've got a theory that might
Totally
bring
kidding.
your motivation back. It's kind of an interesting one. That's, I don't know, maybe adjacent to simulation theory. Have you guys ever heard of biocentrism?
Yeah.
This idea that it's similar to simulation theory, but that biological entities, biological life is the computer. It is the generator of that simulation. And that without the observance of life, reality doesn't quite exist.
Right. Yeah,
and it gets into the idea that dark matter, these, empty spots in the universe, are the parts where there truly is nothing. There is no bacteria. There is no, semblance. And so it's not observed. And so it's not physically manifested. And it goes into the slit experiment and quantum mechanics. And again, shit, I'm not quite qualified to talk about. But check out
spooky action with the double slit experiment.
Yeah,
they created a more advanced version of the double slit experiment, and they got even more confused.
Exactly. And actually, it's something that's really it's bizarre that it's come up in quantum mechanics, because it came up decades ago in ESP research. And this goes with the experiments to alter random number generators. And what they discovered was that if you
human beings can affect the random number generators.
Right. If you were really thinking
to an extreme degree.
Right. It was about 11% more than chance at the high end, which is clearly significant.
So chance is 50-50. So 11% is 61%. That's really fucking high. So if you let me give you an example. That's really
gambling, man. Don't take that bet.
Lipitor. Lipitor, that very famous lowering cholesterol drug.
Yep.
Have you ever heard of its effectiveness? It's like 54%.
That's how I know it for a pill or drug.
It's 50% means placebo.
Slightly better, they'll take it.
So it's slightly better than placebo by almost nothing.
I thought you said 54 because 50 is above placebo. They hear this.
So willpower, true placebo, though, that's part of the problem. If
and the problem
it's 61%.
They've done research with certain people, and they've given them sugar pills to not said anything.
30%.
And it's worked. 30%. And it's worked. And we don't know what is placebo effect completely and what is nocebo effect, which is the opposite.
I'm glad you said that, because here was the problem with the ESP research. You're like, how have we developed this research further? Why is 61%?
Because it's taboo.
Capitalize that. Well, it's taboo. But here's what happened when researchers came in to debunk it. When a team was set up to debunk it, they had the third party do the test, but they were thinking even. They ended up getting odds at 11%. The nocebo kicked in. And again, it wasn't the participant who was noceboing it. It was the researchers conducting the study. So what was ultimately determined was that everyone's ESP affects the study to some degree. And so you can't really study it as a human being, because you're going to fuck up the experiment. There's no.
You could study it likely potentially at a very high distance with more blind elements to the study. Right. So when you hear about what is a double blind study, what that means is the person doing the research doesn't have a clue either. So the person that's testing you doesn't fucking know what the fuck they're doing. So there's like no possibility of manipulation of the data when you don't know. And the person testing you doesn't know. That's kind of part of a double blind. So like both sides don't have a clue what's happening. There's a third party that does. But with that type of research, there's also the ESP, like extrasensory projection, like extrasensory perception research is all over the place, right? Because it started to become prominent after World War II, because the Russians were also doing a lot of research. Then MK Ultra popularized it in terms of the current now mainstream. But it's been around and it currently is still active. They just don't. It's not MK Ultra anymore. It's another research arm, but they're still doing it.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove out of Stanford, he's doing some great
Jeffrey Mishlove?
Research into those exact concepts of following up on ESP. Yeah, he actually just won the Bigelow money, so he might be compromised.
Bigelow Aerospace?
So yeah, he has a branch, the NIDS, that used to do the UFO stuff. They've more switched to, interestingly enough, consciousness-based research. And they gave away a grant to who could ever write the best essay proving life after death. And Dr. Jeffrey Mishlove won that last year. The reason I know that is I also submitted an essay, which I don't think anyone ever read.
Could you send me more?
It was worth a try.
I'm trying to find more on them. I'd love to see more information. How do you spell his name exactly?
Yeah, that was it.
MISHLOVE,
Mishlove. His Encyclopedia of Consciousness is a great resource. I don't know if you can find. I found it in a used bookstore. I don't know what the Amazon price is these days.
But I think they created a science to research this stuff. But we do it every day, fellas. And I think it's in the most right in front of our face way. A mother, when she have a child, it's a mental language that mother knows when something and when that.
Oh yeah.
You feel me? When that child is miles away from her, she can feel it. And even we do it sometimes. I picked up the phone when my mom was living, fellas. I had called mom. She said, "Boy, I was just thinking about you." So we're doing some of this stuff unconsciously.
I think most of it is unconscious. I think if you look at life on Earth, we recognize that happens in a lot of life forms. Insects, fish, the lower, less evolved life forms. They operate on that weird subconscious level. They've all got one kind of motive. They're all, doing one goal. They all move together. Even birds, they've studied that, like their adjustments, they happen faster than like Olympic athletes. It's like a weird.
Well, just look at schools of fish.
Exactly.
Schools of fish with very small brains can do incredible, beautiful symmetry. And birds also, they have this incredible, there's some species of birds, man, you just watch it and you get mesmerized because you see like this weird dance. I don't know if you guys ever seen like birds, but like doing something like this and then they go like this and then they like it's really beautiful.
When they're in a swarm, oh my God.
Yeah, when they're in a swarm and they start moving in this bizarre patterns that
it's beautiful to watch. It's hypnotizing. How can you not watch it because of the movement, like you said? So
you don't expect it. It's not like them just going us. No, it's like this. It's energy fields that they're probably exploring energy fields, and we barely understand any of that stuff. We're starting to understand some of that stuff.
And look at that energy that you say on that picture, Lewis, that you say holds the new
Earth.
Right. And you guys are studied up on ether, right? What ether is. Every thought is such a fine energy thing, and every thought is even imprinted on ether and stuff like that. But they say a diamond is not even it's not liquid nor is it solid. So it's a lot of studies, guys, and I love this show. JB and Chaz, thanks for bringing some information stuff. But they high in the sciences too, brothers. We could have been figured all this shit out, man, hundreds of years ago if they wasn't trying to hold humanity back from developing.
Oh yeah. Well, that goes back to the UFO question with the B theory and stuff. And I always call it B theory, one, because bees, but also because I'm mostly on that psychedelic angle. But if I was a gambling man, if I had to put money on it, I know for a fact humans exist and they're up to shady shit all the time. They've got schemes and plans and plots and conspiracies. That term's become, what it is, but we know it's true.
What a conspiracy is?
Three or more.
Is it three or more?
It's only three.
I forget.
We've got a pretty good conspiracy right here, fellas.
Absolutely.
But conspiracies occur all the time.
Yeah.
In real life, it happens all the time. Like one of the most famous collective conspiracies that affected the 20th century in relationship to modern life was the light bulb cartel conspiracy. How all of the light bulb manufacturers set a 2,000-hour limit. That was a real conspiracy between all of the manufacturers to control the lifespan of light bulbs so they can keep selling light bulbs.
But they do it with oil filters. They do it with tires. We could have been moved past rubber tires.
They do it with a lot of products.
Listen, I'll tell you firsthand, and because I've spent a lot of years working, with my hands on things. I've seen it physically being done in cars, and I can tell you 100% after years of doing appliances, like the appliances now are absolute garbage. Like they're going the same route as cars. There's so there's so much electric nonsense that just kills it. Yeah.
Your phone only lasts how many years? Yeah. Especially if it's an American-made one. Those are the worst. I always get the Korean phone.
Samsung.
I know. I know. I'm a sellout, but it's true. The Samsung lasts way longer than those.
Man, I had a Samsung ran over by a truck and walked back behind it and picked it up off the ground, and the damn thing still continued to work. So I just kept rolling, and I've never turned around.
In the ocean.
Hey, Chad, when you started studying paranormal, right? When you had your first experience or any experience, I'm just curious to know what type of diet was you on. Was you like in a fast mode, or what did that play any part about like your energy?
Man, I'm a pretty big guy, and I'm never really a faster. I did go through a portion when in high school I was a wrestler, so you got to cut weight and stuff. So I did do that, but I don't think there was anything particular paranormal during that period.
I wasn't necessarily your physique, but your diet. I was just trying to see, was you in a heightened state because of what? Because just the appearance don't mean you're not healthy.
I do take that in mind before I do psychedelic experiences. Like if I'm doing psychedelics, I won't eat meat that day. I always meditate for close to an hour beforehand.
They say that's why Nikola Tesla backed out on the Philadelphia experiment, because he didn't have time to see everyone's mindset, diet, and study the vibration of each person. And that's when they came back, they say some of those bodies was
I've never heard that one, but I fucking love it.
I think there was a little bit more than just, diet and mindset and stuff with that.
Well, I mean, I tell a lot of this has been something I kind of swear by and live by, and I'll tell people all the time, and I get judged really hard for this statement, but I don't believe in a bad trip. I believe that's just shit you're supposed to be facing, and if you don't face it, then it's going to keep causing you to have said bad trip.
I don't know.
But you should talk about it. You should talk about it when you're having a bad trip. You should talk about it.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes. You got to resolve it. You've got to resolve it. It's something that you're trying to resolve. That's
because you're seeing it for a reason.
Yeah. Yes.
You're seeing it for a reason.
The person that's had a bad trip, they probably had a bad argument with someone too, so the energy field was, you feel me?
That can affect depending on the
situation. That's exactly what I was gonna say. I was gonna say that when I've had bad experiences, I've never had a bad trip when it's been an internal solo experience or with trusted people. If I'm with trying to do that party shit, then you're gonna have a bad. Then it's a possibility. You still probably will have a good time.
Yeah, there's such things like the person taking that before they ready, they forcing they're it out of open type shit and they wasn't ready.
I've got a story about that. So during one of these Ouija board mushroom seances, my dad came home early because this was after the backpacking trip. I was working at home saving up for moving to Mexico, and I was doing the Ouija board seance. Dad came home early. He was pissed at one of my brothers. He fucked something up. I don't remember what it was. Nothing important, but he was pissed, and he was like, why aren't these dishes done and shit? And I'm tripping really hard. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to do these dishes. And he was ranting and raving, and I literally blacked out, like collapsed. And obviously, in normal circumstances, he does that, no big deal. Off my shoulder, be like, oh yeah, what a shithead. That would be my normal response. Normally, no problem. But in that altered state, you really are vulnerable to these energies. And again, we're talking about on the base human level, there's some kind of mental interaction that occurs non-verbally. Yeah. And so when he was coming in hot like that, I could not make the switch. And so my brain just switched off. And I was, in retrospect, I was doing those trips way too close together. I was doing them like every weekend. Right. Space out your psychedelics from that. That's way too often to be doing them. It's just bad for your health.
Hey guys, if y'all haven't read the book called the Dawn one by Constant, that book I was.
Yeah, I've read it in Spanish.
You got some expression and it's not a fiction either. It's it's nonfiction allegedly. But like, how you talk to water, right? Anger, you could be angry at water, put it in the freezer. Mm-hmm. Then you could just love to the other glass, speak love, and then you put that in the freezer. Take both of them out. The one with hate in it got spikes, right?
Yeah, it alters the shape. Yeah.
The only thing is that they argued that they couldn't replicate the study. Mm-hmm. So that was the only issue with that study. But it doesn't mean it was fake. It doesn't mean it wasn't real. But they couldn't replicate the study.
And I didn't do it a series of times, so I didn't compare the numbers, number of curves against each other. I confess.
Again, though, how do we know it doesn't apply into that ESP effect where?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like they couldn't replicate it, but it also could be a human factor that we're not taking into account. Well, there's
Chaz, I think go back to what Lewis said earlier about the placebo. 30% of the patients heal themselves.
Even that. Speaking of people that can't, that they couldn't replicate, we've talked about this guy before, that guy that was using the sound frequencies to levitate all kinds of things.
Yes, and recently there's a machine. JB,
they were having trouble recreating it, but now they've got. We pulled up one a couple weeks. It's been a few weeks, but we pulled up a video. I believe Luis actually shared it with me. I'm going to go back and try to find it maybe.
I hate to do this, guys. I'm going to go on a piss break though, real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to dive into this for a second, but they were.
Go for it. I'm listening.
You're good, bud. He
had made a vibration go through a bubble in a cylinder, right?
No. This guy was levitating different sizes of rocks and stuff like that with sound, like he was making them up off the ground and stuff. And
that's not Hutchinson. That's not the Hutchinson. And they it's like he put
it's nothing inside of a tube. Like
no. That's something else I was saying. I was paralleling 2 points at the same time. The guy name is Hutchinson that you were speaking about in this machine that you put the object in the levitate. It could be liquid, whatever it is, if it'll levitate. What I was
talking about, but that's
okay. My bad, Jay. My bad, because I recently studied that same guy that had a machine that levitated things. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was talking about it. It's not a machine. These guys were using sound waves. Like it wasn't a machine.
But it was producing sound waves to levitate. The dude I'm talking about. If you get a chance, just check out Hudson, guys. But JB, thanks for the ad. I didn't know about this other version of it. It just sounded similar. I thought that was it.
Well, now I guess give me a second. Now I'm off track. I'm going to see if I can look up his name. Like, because I remember us talking about this before, and I don't think that we're talking about the same guy. No, it's cool that
might not
a similar
be, but
thing.
It sounded similar. But why you do that? There was this guy he sent a vibration through a sound wave through a bubble in a glass, right? And they call it star in the jar, guys. If anybody want to research this. And at the point in the center of the circle, in that the vibration is going through this liquid, right? Bubble, and it created a star within the bubble, and they even stabilized it. So, and it's scientific. So, that's the other point I was just parallel on the side of asking about. Was it Hutchinson? I love science.
What was you saying, Luis?
I mean, when it comes to the vibrations and everything, if you ever seen an image of the back of a turtle and the image of certain vibrations expressed through salts on top of a metal sheet, there's a whole science to that. I forgot its name right now. But for example, an experiment you can do in your house, you just need a big speaker. You can put a piece of a sheet of metal on top of the speaker, and then you lower. I think you possibly have to lower the treble to almost nothing, and then you're playing on the bass's vibration, and then you run certain frequencies. And when you run certain frequencies, the salt will start to turn into the shape of the frequency.
Yep.
If you notice turtles' backs, they are a representation of that frequency. But what if the stories come from the fact that we're just the expressions of the vibrations of a turtle's back?
That's what I heard. When you say
just the expression of a larger being, Gaia, we're just its vibrations. Good vibrations.
I prefer Eris, goddess of chaos. But
right. Lou, as you said, that life was a sheet of life, right? And we're just the other night. Did you say you made that point, right, Lou? That life was just a flat plane of life or whatever.
Well, yeah. So the idea. So certain scientists also believe in the idea that the universe is completely flat, but like a flat plane, and then the holographic projections, that is us, the vibration expressed, is the representation of the universe, but the universe itself is a holographic projection of that energy being expressed.
Inside a battery of some assholes flying
inside the battery of some super powerful alien that we're just like their engine battery for their spacecraft.
So I think that actually I was spouting biocentrism a minute ago, but my new favorite theory, and this actually reminded me of something I wanted to hit on a time ago in this conversation, when we were talking about simulation theory, and whether I wanted to say whether or not simulation theory is true in the sense of true. It's a huge benefit to the paranormal field when it comes to a framework that we can apply to, not even the paranormal field, just general philosophy. As cheesy as it sounds, and it is kind of cheesy, but saying, like the Matrix is an awesome thing in human language. Because before trying to convey the idea that like we lived in a video game, a digital simulation, that would take hours of complex dialogue if we were like the ancient Greeks, per se.
Look at reality in relation to ghost. An interesting point that somebody mentioned, which was really fascinating to think about, is look at old buildings. Old buildings have been around for a long time, right? So that means the collective energy fields could be, when it comes to time, when it comes to a different a different dimensional being, buildings represent like a different scope of energy to them. And when it's been around for a while, they're like, oh, look, we can go over there. And when you go see a ghost, potentially somebody 300 years ago sees you as a ghost, and they see, and you see them as a ghost, and you're both like, what the fuck?
Exactly. And so that's exactly what I meant, though, is that
you both could be in the same space because it exists in both timelines, but you're here in 2022, they're there in 1797.
Yeah, but whether it's the space-time fluctuation, which I prefer, or glitch in the Matrix, that idea that there's some kind of time dilation, there's some kind of advanced physics at play, is a huge step forward. When you compare it to what still is the main magic. Message on TV. Well, not even magic. I wish it was magic. Spooky. I love magic. It's Jesus Christ, and then everything else is demons.
That's the weird thing is like that's minimizing it. If we want to speak of like the evidence of God, the evidence of the creator, many of these things are evidence of intelligent design. And intelligent design in itself represents the idea of a creator.
See, all right, now I'll get a little with you on that. See, I've never bought into the single consciousness theory. I think there are multiple.
Oh, I'm not debating that.
Okay, all right, now do I think
creator
a lot of us,
idea does not conflict with the multiple.
Hey guys, here's my problem with the concept of God, right?
No, just hear me out.
No, I just want to show, like, how can it be God? Because, like, in order to exist, you got to exist within a world, right? A space.
Does it?
To be individual. That's what I'm trying to find out now. That's my problem with if God is God, what did God exist upon, within? What energy was outside of God that he was able to become conscious?
Okay.
No.
Look, hear me out.
Mr. Freescale.
Okay. I'm listening.
So, all right. So I've never been able to wrap my head around a single consciousness. Do I think that multiple people could be a part of a larger single consciousness? Sure, but I think there's a bunch of separate larger single consciousnesses. I don't think there's one solitary one. I think there's multiple ones, because I have connections to some people that I would say would connect back to the theory of the single consciousness, but then I have connections to other people that I have the connection that, yes, I know you in another realm, but no, you're not part of the same consciousness.
You're not a part of the journey.
Can you imagine we're 5 sides of the same consciousness talking to each other right now?
Sure.
And to an external alien being, they're like, oh, he's talking to parts of his psyche
this point, it's just
but like Cat and Kate. I think are great examples. They're clearly 2 separate consciousnesses that have 2 separate missions. You know what I'm saying? But they kind of see it in the realm of where I'm talking to. These are some past spirit guides I'm speaking on, Chaz, that the guys are familiar with. But there's very
familiar with them.
Yeah, they're because I get into. I tied the realm of paranormal spirituality and like crazy conspiracy control and stuff like together quite some time ago, and the more I deal with spiritual ladies and witchcraft and interesting people outside of the realm of norm, the more I find a lot of the kind of running into the same tunnels, and I like this because it is definitely, to me, pieces of the puzzle being put together. And like I like this idea that there are a bunch of separate consciousnesses, but there's also there's only so many of us. This goes back into the NPC thing. There's definitely just other things that are created out of our consciousness to be filler, like the guy at the bank teller station or the dude in front of you driving 45 mile an hour in a 60 mile an hour zone.
See, don't minimize them. They just haven't had
sure. I'm just trying to give examples in your everyday life that you would run across an NPC. But then you run across somebody else that's completely on the same realm of things, like yourself, sir, Chaz. Like this is something I see this evening is, I don't think I could find you back in my consciousness, but I think I could find you in the other realm as a separate consciousness that's out there fighting this same good fight. Because as somebody who definitely doesn't have any problem admitting that they have seen into the other side of the realm and knows there's a battle going on for consciousness in that world of things that people will never believe. There's more than one of us in there fighting that battle. And that's why I believe there's multiple consciousnesses, but we're all supposed to slowly converge on this plane to fix something planes across. You know what I'm saying?
Your soul, JB, can be embodying, let's say, 5 bodies right now, just like the utility that's running from the light pole outside is powering the different rooms in my house, right? But one power, right? But at the same time, that consciousness is individual. The two are different. So the soul could animate, and this is a weird ass theory I'm going to tell you guys, gonna blow your fucking mind. Don't think I'm crazy. But what if your dreams, like when you dream about going to a place you've never been in this embodiment, right?
That's
when you are tapping into the mind or the soul, just like we logging onto the internet to be able to look at each other, right?
Sure.
What if you could pull answers and you can see events that your other, well, your split, they call it the soulmates. But they don't mean just a male and female thing. I think it's above gender. Some of us have soulmates because we're in on the same timeline as soul-wise, right? But inhabiting different bodies. But consciousness, how do they, you know what I'm saying? Now, consciousness is like different. That soul portion of my soul is having its own reality. And how is they're not sharing consciousness, but they're sharing soul ether or energy.
This goes back into like this other realm, like the dream realm, and then like other dimensions around us and stuff that are existing, and the conscious, the device driving the meat mech suit that I'm sitting here talking to you in is or the being or whatever is always doing other things. I have met so many people in that other realm, and then I've found you guys later in this life.
Right,
So some of the people in this Zoom meeting included, like it's the way that things have always gone for me. And somebody put it best to me that was a guest on the show one time. They said I was a hall monitor. I'm somebody out here trying to guide the rest of the crew together, like to show everybody where this is, because we're all coming to the same conclusion. And so with that, this goes back into something we've talked about before, where if we can get enough people to on the same page together about things, are we going to truthfully be able to shift the entire reality that we have going on? Enough people meditating about the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Enough people getting on the same board that we need to have this better tomorrow, like stepping forward to actually do something about it. Go ahead, Bandit. I hear you.
So like a reset.
I know at the end of the movie, the Matrix, right?
Not the reset you're thinking, though.
She could tell Neo, right, the outcome, because he had to determine the outcome, right? It's like certain predictions. It's no definitive prediction because it's always subject to shift if the mindset that created it shift. It's just like healing. A disease ain't nothing. Dis-ease, two separate words. One is a prefix. Hey, this is just uncomfortable, meaning uncomfortable. But anyway, a disease, before it get physically seen in the body, it started from the mental realm. There's in Hermetic philosophy, a book that was written by 3 initiates called The 7 Hermetic Principles, right? One of them was duality, one of them was polarity, and one was mind, and mind is everything. So just like we're talking to each other, JB, but you might be having a thought about sister right now. We're doing multiple things right now, but we still using this one conscious, and we all think about more than one thing. They say we have more than one mind, the one here, the one in the gut, and the aura. So we are more than what we even know while we studying external sciences. We haven't even studied and figured out who we are, but all of it connects, JB. Everything connects. And like you say, JB, what if you pulled everybody here today? You feel me?
I mean, I've made the statement, before that there's a lot to do with bringing all this together, and I think there is. Like they use it as a weapon. You made mention earlier, Luis, about how MK Ultra and stuff, and like these other psyops that they, Operation Mockingbird stuff that they brought out into the open. But for some reason, I guess because maybe people are dumb sometimes. I'm not trying to be mean, but like they think that because it came out in the open, it stopped.
Our government would never do something like that.
Yes, you know what I'm saying, and so all right. So this goes This goes hand in hand with they're helping create this, I guess, terror-filled, fear-based, low vibrational prison system by keeping people in things, whether it be through movies, whether it be through music, whether it be through just the news in general, and then
cosmetics, movies, technology. I believe it.
Whereas you get to come over to podcasts like this one and a bunch from my other friends and have wild ass fucking conversations like this.
Yes,
you're not going to catch anywhere else for sure.
See, the same thing. It's like they are keeping people like in tune, in step with social media, movies, TV, even music. But at the same time, we can use it as a weapon and use it against them. We can turn it and use it against them. Get people aware, open people's minds up to this stuff. You know, it's the sharpest double-edged sword available to us.
That's the point of doing what we do here, I believe. You
Yeah.
know, it's just trying to, because, you know, I mean, a lot of these conversations, I guess you would consider them super fringe, but I truly believe, and I know I've heard this on the show before too, but I truly believe that the only way we're going to move forward with things like science or even technology or even humanity is looking into this fringe, all of this fringy stuff, the things that people have been brushing off for years. They're like, oh, that's just a camera lens, you know, no offense to Luis, or oh, that's just a, you know, that's just a this or that. Like they think they have an explanation for it when they truly don't.
Wait. Well, what was it? What is their favorite thing to say? They'll use a fisheye lens to project to show the curve of.
Are we talking about our buddy that nicknamed Luis the Heliotard?
Yeah,
Don't get me started on flat Earth.
I am a heliosexual. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm a globetard. But hold on. You know, like we at the same time, I want to completely laugh them away. You know, I do. But at the same time, have any one of us ever been up high enough to see it? Do we have?
I have. I
sort of have, but at the same time, you know, have any of us? I've done my fair share of traveling. I really have. I have done some serious traveling.
No curvature when I was up there at all, and there's a curvature every so many miles. It's supposed to. I mean,
well, if you go to 7 Mile Bridge here in Florida before Key West with 7 miles, and you sit right like on the slope as they got like the sandbaggy things. You sit on the slope there. You can see the bridge kind of disappear over the horizon. It looks round. There's a lot of those.
You get a camera lens and zoom in, because a human eye can't zoom in that distance, and you can get a camera lens and to put it right back in focus.
Well, you can sit there and see it you can see it round down out the thing. If you're sitting there with the level on the pylons, you can find photos of it too.
The detail is.
I'm flat.
I know. I'm sorry.
But no. That's getting. I'm coming back.
Cool,
the point I'm trying to make. So the point I was trying to make. Okay, but no. See, the point I was making was we don't know what we exist in. We really don't. I mean, we could exist in a snow globe. This could be a prison planet. We could exist at the bottom of the ocean in some alien beings' computer lost in their ship at the bottom of the ocean. We could be a square. We could be a flat square teetering on the back of a giant turtle.
What if Minecraft has it right?
Seriously, what if we are in a computer being played by some ancient being's kid on the weekends? You know,
Ever seen Reboot?
I have.
So, I think I read.
But what if we don't know? Really, honestly, none of us know.
That's true.
You know.
So my new favorite to this point, my new favorite theory concept. I don't know what you would call it, but there's a great book by Dr. Raymond Moody, and he's most famous for coining NDE, near-death experience. Ton of research into that concept, and interviewing people really established in that area of psychology. But this book is purely on like logical theory, and it's I think the book's called Making Sense of Nonsense. But it gets into this theory
which is
of
what we try to do on a daily basis, you know.
Absolutely, but what we all lack, and it's not our fault. We're taught this logical fallacy, is nonsense for most of us is equal to false. I do that all the time. Like, that's nonsense. I write it off. I dismiss it, meaning it's bullshit. But that is a big mistake we do in our logical thinking, because there are 3 categories of information. They're not just true or false. There's true, false, and nonsense, meaning you can't derive sensical information from it. You can't find a true, you can't find a false. It doesn't have meaning. And we have to recognize that we use that all the time, whether it's religion, and I'm not gonna step on that landmine, but think of whatever religion you're not, think of whatever one you're not, and think of one of the ridiculous things they believe, right? There's
the flying spaghetti monster. What if we're...
Oh my God, please. We're not stepping in this minefield tonight, all right? No.
Well, right. That's the spaghetti monster.
It doesn't make sense. Right? It doesn't make sense. But also look at science, because science uses that nonsense placeholder too. Look at the Big Bang Theory. Nothingness exploded into everythingness. That sentence doesn't mean anything. It's a contradiction. It's the same sentence Dr. Seuss writes to entertain children. It's a piece of nonsense. It doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean it's false. It just is a placeholder for information hopefully we'll understand. And that goes back to applying these frameworks, especially when it comes to the paranormal, because all of the paranormal essentially fits in that nonsense category at the end of the day. There's little bits of information, little pieces of physical evidence that they're there, they're disputed, but they're there. But at the end of the day, these experiences are essentially nonsensical, which is why the research into the idea that they're psychedelic in some kind of nature seems to be the most fruitful, because it does address that nature. Whether it is, putting the mind in a nonsensical thinking framework, or if it's, just doing the things psychedelics does and makes you think outside the box. Either way.
It's like,
go ahead, my bad. Go ahead.
It's like you have to look at, like, when you think of like NPCs will only agree with like a logical conclusion of whatever you're talking about. NPCs only will.
What is logic?
Like, yeah. Well, that's just.
So I don't.
Totally got. But see, no.
I don't like
to to you, sir.
Because I think it dehumanizes our fellow brethren, because we're all humans, fighting together. And that's not to say I think, and no one's born an NPC. NPC is hammered into you by.
Oh yeah, they're totally like, they are programmed at an early age. We were all an NPC at one point or another in our life. It's whether or not you choose to look outside that pre-programmed way of thinking.
I was always rocking it.
But seriously, it's like you have to, like, I disregard nothing anymore, man. I mean, it could be the most nonsensical piece of information out there that a vast majority of people will look at that and go, that's hey man, you're speaking crazy now.
I was inhaling. Yeah. I felt like I was inhaling water the other day. I was talking to somebody, and I sort of like, I had to stop. I was like, I'm smelling water. I'm smelling like I'm inside of water, and I felt like I was like drowning. I'm wide awake. I'm just talking literally to somebody on over Zoom, and my brain was like, wait, is it all glitching? I'm inhaling liquid, but I'm here. But I'm actually inhaling liquid right now. My body like glitched out. It's like, wait, am I here?
I had one of those once. 3 a.m., which interestingly, the witching hour, all kinds of weird chemicals in the brain at that time, which science debunk the witching hour. Sitting on the toilet. 3 a.m.
You ever heard of cellular memory? When I was in prison, guys, 3rd year after not smoking marijuana and everything, I was into my 3rd year, right? I swear on everything. There's cellular. I had residual sensories. I was smelling herbs some days. It's certain senses that I didn't have access to, that I hadn't taken into my physical vehicle a long duration of time. but I smelled smells that it was so definitive that I could not notice that it's And I was wondering if you had that experience where that you went without something a long time and you like basically what you're saying, Lewis, I guess. But
that's to that biocentrism idea that and Robert Lanza hits on that none of the experiences we experience exist without the human brain. All of those sensory inputs and outputs are in there, and they're chemical triggers, things like that. Yeah, you can add some chemicals that fuck with it, but for the most part, all sense, all smell, taste, sight, those are already pre-programmed in the meat computer. And so it gets to that idea, he points out, if a tree falls in a forest, does it make a sound? Well, in a forest, yeah, there's plants, bugs, everything, something's going to feel that vibration, something's going to experience that falling. But if a stone pillar,
patient that was unsedated in operation having surgery, right? And this, and he came back and told everything that was going on in the room when he was sedated, unconscious, and they was operating, had him spit open and everything. But when the consciousness or whatever entered back into the vehicle upon when they woke him up from the anesthesia, that they remembered everything detailed that would happen in the room. So you say the brain is the reason, is the basis. I'm conflicted. I'm not saying you're wrong now, Chaz. I'm just saying.
Hold on. I got one for you.
I'm trying to.
Give me a second. I'm pulling up the article. I'm gonna send it in the chat.
I did put one on from Harvard on smelling things that aren't there. So there's been studies on that.
Like a kid that's scared of the boogeyman, right? It's not there. In his mind, it is until he grow up. And
they do say that's one of the beginning signs, one of the first signs of a brain tumor too.
Wow.
Oh yeah. So if you smell, smell could dictate if you're having a health condition.
I disagree with that. That sounds absurd.
They say
that happens.
That happens with brain tumors. Brain tumors
is indicative of a brain tumor.
Smelling certain things.
Smelling certain things that are not there.
Okay,
there are,
so
there's actually certain smells.
Everybody smell something that's not there. That's signs of a brain tumor. That don't
no. Particular type.
Particular smells. There are a specific category.
Can you pull up some research on that?
I just put it. But it's in the chat.
Yeah.
Because I just can't go over there.
It's in the chat. It's in the chat.
That's right.
Okay, I can't see. What? But that's don't make it. Come on now. This ain't scientific. This ain't medical. This just some guys making up.
This is Harvard Health Publishing.
Whether Harvard or not, Malcolm X went against Harvard in a debate and shut everything down. So that don't mean Harvard.
No. But there's a lot. This is a recent research. There's research that it comes from other people. So it starts from. People say, "Well, I was smelling this particular smell right before the heart attack."
So everybody that said
that stroke
have brain tumors. That's what you tell
them. That's not. You're taking that wrong, man. That's not.
Yeah.
No, I'm just trying to clarify. I'm just trying to understand. I ain't taking it wrong. I want to understand it. That's all.
They have brought people in
something that's not there.
Okay, hush for a second. Let him tell you.
Hey, Kel, hold on a second.
I don't hush for nobody. I'm a grown man now. Hush. I tell my child hush.
Hey, hold on a second. Hey, they've brought people in that have had.
Let me go. I'm gonna have to cut this short. But hush. I don't know about hush. I tell my son hush.
But we're trying to explain, and you won't slow down. You won't slow down long enough to let us explain. You keep interrupting.
Hey, hold on a second. They have brought people in that have had.
I enjoyed everybody on the panel. I love you guys.
It's okay.
Okay, so they've brought people in. Like, I'm going to explain it. Whether
go ahead, please go ahead.
Jesus Christ! They brought people in that had brain tumors. Like, they've done the surgery, they've removed it, and they've just documented people that have thousands of people that have done this. Yeah. Oh well.
No. I mean that's
that. Yes.
That's what we were trying to get out.
Yeah.
Oh no, and there's things like that happen. There's, for example, if you didn't know, if a woman is having a heart attack, it's like a back pain.
Yeah.
And with guys, and with people, a lot of people, it's like left shoulder pain.
So people don't know this, and this is crazy. Until the 90s, all studies were only on men.
Interesting.
For like the majority of things, unless it was specifically for women. All studies were exclusively done on men. There were no female versions until like the 90s. And that's so a lot of data has a lot of errors. And that's one. When you were taught how do you identify a heart attack, or how you identify a stroke, or how you identify all these things, it depends from male to female.
So this was what I was looking for. I'm sorry I missed all that.
Part of the ESP study?
I'm sorry, Kel. Miss you, man. This was what I was trying to get at. See this image? You all can see the image here. Which one's blue? You guys see which one's blue out of the squares?
None of them are blue.
I can see it.
But you can see which ones are blue. There's one here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna circle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? It looks blue, right?
Yeah. It's not.
Which one of these is a different color? Anyone?
None of them.
Like any of them.
They are.
None of them. Well, one of them is one shade different. And so here's what's interesting. This girl here is from the Himaba tribe in Namibia in the Kalahari Desert.
Is on point. That is Namibia, yes.
She can't tell which one is turquoise. She legitimately is struggling in this image to figure out which one there is the blue square. But every person of the Himaba tribe was able to be like, that one right there. It's one shade different. It's only one shade green different. If you went on like Photoshop and did like that color gradient, you ticked up one. It is slightly different. There it is. It highlighted it. I remembered it. That's the only reason I do it. And once you say it, you can kind of see it a little bit.
It's also a screenshot, so it's likely also not even accurate in terms of color. That's why I don't like that part. It's probably not even that accurate on color. But I get the point of the study, yeah.
Well, and the title of this article is "There's Evidence Humans Didn't Actually See Blue Until Modern Times." And that's a little bit of a misnomer. It's the popularization of indigo as a dye. But if you go back in time, like Homer's The Odyssey, there's no reference of the blue.
No, there's if you go even to the medieval times, if you look at like the colors from natural dyeing agents that they used for clothes, blue really wasn't prevalent.
And it was more because there wasn't the pigments available. But that notion of ideas like, oh, blue didn't exist. Like, no, it existed. We just had a different name for it.
Well, Homer described the ocean as wine colored.
And if you think about it, blue is a variant of that. It's
it's close.
Again, it's a descriptor.
Well, it gets.
We have artificial colors. We have a way to create artificial colors that we didn't have a few hundred years ago.
Oh yeah.
So here's why I know of that study in particular, though you might find this intriguing, is because I'm looking into a paranormal case in that region, where they have, like most desert arid areas, they have this weird light phenomenon. I went out to Marfa, Texas. I saw the Marfa lights, these weird light spheres. Most scientists, it happens so often that most scientists believe it to be, some kind of natural light phenomenon. It's always where these lights pop up, some kind of spooky legend is associated with it. And they got the Min lights in Australia, and this set of lights in Namibia is pretty much unstudied because, paranormal people are.
Is that similar to the lights that are seen in Texas? You ever heard of those lights? At light productions that people find in Texas?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
There's a light, like the light show, the natural light show that people don't know the origin of it in Texas.
Yeah, Marfa, Texas. So yes, that's a perfect example. It's in the early years, first settlers, it was thought to be the ghosts of Aztec soldiers looking for gold or hiding their gold or guarding their gold or, some gold. And then in modern times, it's a UFO legend. And when I went out there, I met a dude who was there's literally like a rest stop on the side of the road. That's the Marfa Lights Viewing Center. And you can go out there and it's kind of like a 30-70 shot that you're going to see them. I went out the first night and saw one light off in the distance. And I was like, that's just some fucking light, whatever. And some dude was there being like, nope, that's one of them. And he was telling the story about how when he was a kid, he's from the area, the school, he was driving back from a football game and one of these lights came right up to the bus and scanned up and down kind of intelligently and then flew back away. And he's telling this story. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I'm watching this light and then suddenly it jets up in like a weird direction and then kind of like floats back down in a weird way and then disappears. I was like, fuck, that's bizarre. And so the next night I went out and I took a bunch of magic mushrooms because that's, my approach. And there were a ton of lights and there were, people out there because it's, one of the few things to do in this small town. And everyone was watching these lights, but there was like 7 or 8 of them doing all kinds of weird maneuvers and shit. And I was really trying to get one to like fly at me like that guy described, but they all stayed on that horizon line, which again makes me suspicious it's some kind of natural phenomenon, some kind of illusion. But in this region in Namibia, they have these light spheres, like these desert regions. And in colonial times, much like Marfa, there's, legends of ghost women in white, your classic kind of ghostly stereotypes. In modern times, there's this, UFO lore associated with them. They follow cars, missing time, that kind of stuff. But in this one region around the southern border with South Africa, near this riverbank, the light sphere, when people get close to it, they see it as a flying snake. And it's the flying snake of Namibia. Now, this snake is super bizarre because of the details. It has like a glowing light on its head. So that's why it looks like a sphere from far away until you get close. But it also has smoke coming out of its nose. It has this heat about it. It leaves scorch marks, very similar to UFOs. But most notably, it drains the blood of cattle. It leaves these perfectly round, cauterized wounds, draining the blood, similar to not only UFOs, but chupacabras in South America and Latin America.
Puerto Rico!
And again, farmers in this region report specifically, oh, fuck, a bunch of cattle died, scorch marks, blood drained. It must have been the flying snake. And it's interesting that, again, in this region, we also have this anthropological study where people are literally seeing colors differently. And then you have this paranormal phenomenon when up close, it is being viewed differently. And this correlates with researchers like Jacques Vallée, who have suggested that the phenomenon is one trickster wearing many masks. And I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I do think we're hitting that wall of consciousness of understanding where our meat brain doesn't quite have enough computing power to understand what's going on. And so it fills in the gap. It starts.
You guys ever done the experiment? So there's a really great visualization experiment. And you guys ever done it? So you basically have a cross hair in the center, and then you have a projection of 2 faces on the opposite sides of the screen, and then it starts running. And all it's doing, it's showing you different faces on different sides, and it just keeps going. If you focus on the center, your brain is going to trip you the hell out. And you can do this right now, and it's going to make you trip the heck out. Just staring at the center of the crosshair, because your brain's autocomplete will slowly deform the humans. Very powerful visualization to try.
Interesting.
Let me look it up because it's really powerful, and we can try it right now and you can all experience it. It's very powerful.
What's the title of it again?
Crosshair. It's a crosshair face deforming.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. With the face.
Yeah, and so all of these, though, whether it's weird visual things like this or psychedelics, show that, you know, this is the kicker for a lot of fucking people, flat earthers. I'm going there. I'm kind of buzzed at this point. But you can't even trust your eyes, man. Like there's something else going beyond our senses to say that, oh, my limited human senses are the only thing trustworthy. No. Because I've taken drugs and I've seen other shit beyond those senses. Whether or not they're legitimate, that means there's something there. That means the whole thing's in question.
Yeah.
And again, when we can do simple things without substances, without altering our chemical makeup, just by looking at shit and have those effects. And so it's one of those scenarios that you know, fuck, we got to question everything. You got to be constantly questioning the reality around you. And you know what? That's why they gave you the consciousness in the first place.
So wait.
Probably.
So like make it full screen and let's actually try it. Everybody, just stare at the crosshair. All right, hit play.
Nicolas Cage.
Wow, it's already really bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's Art Deco.
Like, that's wild.
Keep staring. It gets worse.
It looks like some of the things off Midjourney that were like,
yeah, right, like Midjourney, but like version 1.0.
Yeah, that's so wild.
Wow,
This
Kevin Bacon had a really bad face.
Before.
Yeah, dude.
How
this alone proves you shouldn't trust your eyes, right?
Yep.
Huge facts. Huge facts.
I love the eyes like shrink into the face.
Yeah,
like
that's
they
so
get much
wild.
smaller, or the nose gets gigantic and the eyes become also gigantic and the nose tiny. The mouths don't change that much. There you go. Those are humans again, I think.
Yeah, they are. They're back to normal. Like that's.
But that's a really trippy thing to do, and you can do it.
Pretty fucking trippy.
That's an example that whatever you're experiencing, it's not what you think it is.
Don't worry, folks. Everybody out there that's just listening and not watching, you guys make sure you come over to the episode and tune into this. Like, because this. No, I'll have the links up for it too. But that's wild. Like, it's crazy. And, you know,
so it's interesting when you get into that because so obviously things like that affect everybody. That's why they're known, right? Everyone's seen some of the famous, you know, MC Escher illusions and shit. Because they work for everybody. But when things like the color thing we saw, you know, that seems to be more of a cultural, possibly, you know, genetic scenario going on there. The question, as it often has become in modern science, nature or nurture, how are these, you know, what causes your perception to be what? And one of the most interesting things in that Namibia story of the flying snake, that region is mostly, you know, an ethnically significant, you know, independent group. But some of the key witnesses from this, a lot of native people reporting the flying snake. But there's also a few Dutch settlers who moved into the area who also reported seeing the flying snake. When in the other regions around the same time, Dutch people were seeing this light and seeing a ghostly figure. They were like, oh, it's the ghosts, you know, it's some kind of ghost. This guy was like, no, I saw the light up close, and these native people are right. It's a flying snake. And so at what point does the subconscious blend into our subconscious? What point does it switch? When does our filter adjust to the filter of those around us? Yeah. And I think it's super interesting when it comes to, you know, some of the modern lore coming from the US when it comes to the skinwalker stuff, which of course there's the original legend. And with all stories like this, there's some kind of original legend, it seems. Even the flying snake, there's a legend of snake god from that region that lives in this river. But Mothman. There's a legend of a Native American curse in that area.
There's also flying snakes in Mexico too. I was talking to a Mexican friend of mine. We were talking about gods, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this other I can't remember the exact name of this, but he was mentioning this particular snake god."
Oh yeah,
there's all these types
of
the serpent that we don't know about.
Yeah.
There's so much we don't know about. Just think of Africa, a country with over 52 countries.
Oh, well,
so much culture divided inside of those countries. There's so much more culture. The countries just define the lines, but there's more inside of those lines.
Talking about snakes, there's this Dutch guy who was a World War II fighter ace. He was a war hero, flying over the Congo in a helicopter. Took a picture of a snake he said was 50 to 60 feet long, which would make it the largest snake on record. It's this black and white photo, and he saw it on this hillside. He was swung around. The dude riding shotgun was like, had a camera. Was like, swing around, I'll take a picture of it.
54 countries. I wanted to correct myself. 54 countries.
They swung around. He zooms in to take this picture, and the snake raises 15 feet off the ground and lunges at the helicopter. Well, fuck that. They got out of there. Literally out of a monster movie. But the photo has been tested and analyzed. It's legitimate. It's black and white though. You can't really get a good gauge on the size of the snake. But it's weird. That's one of those ones where I'm like, yeah, that might be real. The whole argument against the biological Bigfoot, I believe there's a psychedelic nature possibly to those entities. Again, Bigfoot might be one of these filters, like the flying snake or UFOs or whatever that our consciousness throws on this. But the giant snake thing, that might actually just be a giant fucking snake, man. Fuck me, that could just be. Snakes are crazy. They'll just eat and live forever. They're like alligators.
That's true.
Yeah, is that it? Yeah, Remy Van Liedreis. That's it.
This guy?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's the giant.
Jesus.
That's real. Holy shit.
Taken from a helicopter. And so that's on a mountain hillside in southern Congo. So this is a break in the jungle. And he just saw this giant fucking snake. And so
if you think about it, if you get to see it, you probably are also dead right after you see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's one of those things. Yeah. It's one of those things
you discovered it. Oh, then you're dead 15 minutes.
Before I opened my mind up to all of this, I would have discounted that as just totally fucking fabricated and made up nonsense. Now I'm like, I want to go find something. I want to go find this guy. I want to go find this snake.
Congo's still not really a good place to travel yet, though.
No. How many civil wars have they been?
Yeah. Interestingly, though, it should be noted that the largest snake on record was found in South America, not Africa. I believe it was an anaconda.
Anaconda.
Boa? No, boa is Asia. Anaconda.
No, anaconda.
30,
yeah, it's an anaconda.
So 50 feet's really not that much bigger than 35 feet. Yeah, it's possible, but again, different continents. So
no, and it's possible because there weren't that many humans in that time period in certain regions, so we couldn't really destroy the environment they were feeding on.
If that thing rose up to attack a flying helicopter, I don't think this was feet. I'm thinking this was probably meters.
Oh, he's also Dutch. Maybe that is a mistranslation.
I'm thinking this is meters.
That would be huge, though. That would be
ridiculous, bro.
But seriously, I wouldn't discount that as being false now.
Right. Let me actually check out what it says. I'll check right now what this is.
It says that this is one big
you can see him kind of getting off the air.
1959, Remy van Liede served as a colonel in the Belgian Air Force at the Kamina Air Base.
War hero. He was a fighter ace. He was well respected by the UK.
Katanga region of the Democratic Republic of Congo, returning from a mission by helicopter.
He
The
had
snake was
escaped
close to
2
50
prison
feet
camps,
long,
well
2 feet wide,
respected.
3 feet long. 3 feet long triangular head. So he saw the head and everything.
I don't think there was no way that's feet. That's got to be meters because
No, it's got. I mean, if meters would be like, because if you're
It would be
looking at it,
substantially bigger. I think again, you're from the plane. It's on an open thing, so
no, because you see the plants around it, so you can get a context even by the plants. It's feet.
Are they bushes? Oh, yeah.
Those
Okay.
are bushes. Those are bushes. That's
if
feet.
he estimated it at 50 feet, and that was a gross estimation, maybe it was
That's not
40, 45, and so that's only 5 more than 35 in South America. That's totally possible.
That's totally believable.
Yeah.
I don't think he would lie. Also, that's one of the biggest. I tell this story. I've been doing lectures here in Florida on UFOs and shit, and I open it with a story about a friend of mine as a child. There was this weird, like, when we would go camping with this friend of mine, Billy. I should do the whole routine, the whole bit. Here we go. There's something. Comedians, paranormal investigators are the same thing. They're both terms for unemployed. Yuck, yuck, yuck. All right. When I was a kid, I used to hang out with this kid, Billy, and he was pretty strange, but he was a cool kid. And we would go camping. We'd go on these long camping trips. And one time we were at this campground, and there was this weird phenomenon where you could step over this speed bump and you could hear wind chimes, and then you could hop over it and there would be nothing. It was like this weird kind of sound wall. And now as an adult, clearly it was some kind of echo between the trailers, sound thing going on. But at the time it was kind of spooky, right? And so we were all testing it out as kids and, ooh, weird. And my friend Billy comes riding down the road on his bike, and he's like, the ghosts are planning an attack. We got to get ready. And I'm like, well, come on, man. No, something weird's going on. Why are we doing all this? And that is the majority of my job as a paranormal investigator. And important to reiterate, Billy wasn't doing that because he wanted to like trick someone or fool someone. He wanted to be included. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why we have these communities. There wouldn't be a listenership and stuff like that without people wanting to be included. And sometimes that leads them to be telling some yarns. And here's the thing. It's annoying, yes, but also those are some of the best stories. They're the funniest, they're the weirdest, and sometimes the absolute scariest, when people make it up. Because the truth oftentimes is, more mundane than that. So, no knocks against them for that. But the job I've adopted here as investigator mostly has to do with determining who's being a Billy and who's not being a Billy. Are you telling this story because you want to be included, or are you telling this story because something weird happened to you and you want to figure out what it is? You've had a bizarre, reality-altering physical experience and you need answers. And usually it's pretty easy to tell, but not always. Again, I get wrapped up in the story, and that goes back to the Grebennikov stuff, where I'm wrapped up in that story. I'm willing to admit it. Like, I'm ready to believe it's true. I'm waiting for the men in black to knock on my door and be like, "You're right, it was the bees. Now shut the fuck up." I'm ready for it. But I also have to remind myself, what are my sources? A crazy guy I met in Morocco, and then a friend of a friend's dad from a podcast. Not great sources. I couldn't win this court case. You know what I mean? It's easy to get caught up in those
but I like to. It's one of those things that I do say a lot, especially here in the past month with us doing all these interesting spooky month episodes that we've been doing. I'm not here to deny anyone their experience. If they've got some kind of weird, awesome, interesting experience, I'm the guy that wants to hear about it, because I'd rather hear about it and let you tell me about it. And even if it's baloney, we might try to call you on it, but if it's not, we're going to be on the edge of our seat being completely interested the whole way. But it's not our job to really judge you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah. Oh well, and here's the good thing about, because I do most of my work through writing. And most people don't read, so I don't really have to worry about, because I as an investigator, there are times where I have to be like, yeah, he's probably full of shit. Just if I'm being honest with my audience, which is I take on as my responsibility. In my current book I have out, I researched the Betts Castle, which is this crazy case with the UFO sphere and a haunting and this strange island, whole bizarre thing. But I tried out this piece of technology, ghost technology, which I've been in the game a long time, and I've got to say, always very skeptical of ghost technology. And to put it in a short story, wrap it up in a bow, I came out to that same conclusion after trying out this technology. But it was based on this idea, a place between time and space. Thank you for the plug. It was based on this idea that UFO spheres cause hauntings. And again, he's got Patrick Jackson. He's very interesting. You should have him on the show. Interesting guy. He'll definitely get into the theory.
Yeah.
But he's very convinced of it. He thinks he's cracked it, and there's very little discussing anything entertaining the idea that he hasn't. But his theory is that the Foo Fighters, that these UFO spheres are responsible for hauntings, that they go into a quantum state and they turn invisible and they say random phrases, and that's what EVPs are. It's the sphere trying to scare you away, and that's why they don't make sense. It's kind of like talking to an AI, not an actual ghost. It's an interesting theory, and honestly, it represents a step forward for the ghost hunting community, recognizing there is a connection. But there's like an $8 app you gotta buy, and then there's like a device which is like $800 if you want to get one of the devices. Plus, it's from the UK, so you got to pay for that international shipping.
Oh my god!
So, obviously, on a paranormal investigator's salary, I was like, okay, sure, whatever. Luckily, I have friends in interesting places, and this one guy who does some stuff with TV shows was able to loan me one of the devices to try out during this book. And there was some high strangeness during my investigation. Again, I think that probably has to do more with the consciousness, headspace, mentality aspects of it than it does any kind of weird device. Honestly, I think maybe the device might have lowered that, because I was like, meh. But who knows?
Well, I think personally that this has been a fantastic, final for our little spooky month with me in costume and just having all these weird conversations and stuff. Chaz, this has been a fantastic conversation from where I'm sitting at. I do apologize for getting a little out of pocket there with Kell for a second, but we'll get it straight.
No worries.
We had a misunderstanding.
It happens.
Passionate
people.
He's a passionate dude, and he's I love him to death. He's super smart guy, man, and even you and him were on the same level on a lot of things, and that's what I like about Kell. He's a real good dude. So, but Luis, you got anything for me for tonight before we get ready to wrap up?
Explore the flying spaghetti monster.
Oh my god!
No, don't.
Luis, are you gonna wear that hat from now on? Is that gonna be your new hat?
You can make it a religion. You could make it a religion.
Chaz, I usually wear a pirate hat on a regular basis.
All right, well,
great, man. Now I gotta get something.
I'm gonna always wear the wizard hat when I'm on.
Yeah, bro. And again, anytime, I always love return guests are my favorite guests, and there's so many things we can talk about. So, Bandit, you got anything for me?
I think we should have him on with Kat and Kate.
Oh God. I'm just.
I think that. Vicky.
Miss Vicky, our medium.
Miss Vicky, the medium.
She solves murders with her medium powers. She's interesting.
I think that would be a really good
I see.
of people.
I see some eye rolls from some people in the audience here.
Spaghetti hats.
No, not at all.
No.
I'd love to talk to her.
I gotta be honest.
I love to talk to her.
So.
I'm not doubting anything she's done. If she literally has helped solve things, hey, more power to her. I'm not questioning her at all. I would want to talk to her. I was not available that day. I would have loved to talk to her.
I'm also interested. I would love to see documentation because it does happen. Mish Love has a couple good documented cases of police officers who have used psychics before and confirmed that cases have been solved. But
the sad part is some of them have wasted the police's time. So it's
that's
some are good and some are horrible.
He's also done the math on the percentages of that, and it's definitely like 99.5% are fake nonsense that wastes people's time. So it's So again, I love interesting claim. I'm open to it.
Oh yeah.
But
well
again.
Of course, you guys know that with every episode, I make sure I share where you can find the folks that are going to be on here. And of course, here's just his plain website, chazofthedead.com.
Yeah,
you can find his book.
His family thinks I'm crazy. What's that?
That's great. Mark, he's a great guy. There's my articles. I write for Paranormality Magazine. They're a great independent publication. Oh, that formatting's bad. Fix that. Great independent publication. Do all kinds of paranormal stuff from cryptids to
and you can get back to him on all the socials there as well.
And the socials at Chaz of the Dead on all of them. Very one note, so check it out.
That's how I found him in this podcast community, man. A lot of us all kind of chat together and stuff like that. And I ran across this guy and I knew he was going to be something we'd be into talking to this evening. So I really appreciate it. I had a blast tonight. Like you've been an absolute just joy to have on to this evening, for serious. And I can't wait till you come back again, man. I really can't. Now, of course, in true fashion of how things roll over here, you guys know I can't sign out without giving you my nightly pirate joke. So where can you find a pirate who has lost his wooden leg? Right where ye left him. Good night, everybody.